somewhat similar to this in, I believe it was October of last year, thinking we had our grand master plan and we're going to do the unveiling then. But that didn't work out. The site wasn't the best possible place, and we wanted to have a good fit for Evansville. As some of you know, this has been my vision for a long time, and just through talking with people, let me back up a little bit. I've always wanted to give something back to Evansville. I've been here 15, 16 years, and Evansville is just the warmest community I've ever lived in. I've lived few places throughout the Midwest. And I've always walked labyrinths, and I love the park system here. And I thought a labyrinth would be a wonderful addition to the Evansville community because it provides something that Evansville does not have. Evansville has parks that are full of very active recreational places. Softball and tennis and basketball, skateboard parks. A labyrinth would provide a more passive recreation, less action, more mindfulness. And I thought it would be a wonderful fit. So I started talking to people, and soon that became their vision. And we started meeting about last September, and from that we started looking at different sites. The first site wasn't a good fit for us. We continued our search, and I'm happy and very excited today to tell you that we have a second site. We have been working with the city, and we have been working with the Parks Department and the State Historical Society, and we have selected Seminary Park, which is, if you know where 4th Street is, it fits where 4th Street and College Drive wraps around it. It's that green space there with all those lovely mature trees. And I'll get to that a little bit more later when I talk about the major announcement. But right now I want to have John Gishnock come up of Formocology and tell us a little bit about the site plan and all of what went into it and how we all arrived at the plan itself. So John, would you come on up?
We'll turn it off. We have a short presentation, 5 minutes or less, so it won't take it too much time. But this is a presentation that we as a group have given throughout the approval process here in town. But as Denise said, it gives you an idea of why we came to the Seminary Park site and how we came to the design that we see here today. I'm John Gishnock, and I'm with Formocology, as Denise said. So we were part of the design team too, and I was, as a business owner and part of Formocology, it was fun to be involved with a good group of dedicated people and to have an opportunity to design a garden that we hadn't designed, a garden based on mindfulness and passive recreation, less action and more mindfulness, as Denise put it. Just this is the park, a map of the city highlighting some of the parks. I'm sure a lot of you know where Seminary Park is, but it's 4th and College, as Denise said, so it's a small little sliver of land. It's immediately adjacent to part of the grounds at the Seminary Park Apartments. And as I've been told, and as you can see, it's underused and has not been sort of formally identified as a park. And so one good reason to take our landscape and our activity there. I'll just blow up. In the context of the city, here's Main Street. This map was nice. Here's the property. It's kind of a distinct upward, upside down L in the center of the map. This was useful just to see if there were any big major forms that we could create that might connect to other elements and features adjacent properties, but it's a formal grid layout for much of the landscape. A little bit closer view, here it is blown up. It's the north and east sides of the Seminary Park apartment property. And as Denise also mentioned too, we do have a nice foundation of mature trees there to create a nice canopy, shade the space, or at least the spaces that will be most active in. Recognizing that this was kind of the end of several streets and sort of a destination space in itself, our design basically just worked within the confines of that L-shaped space and tried to really create a nice space that fit within that shape. We were able to find a site survey of that property. So we did start with a firm boundary and property lines for the project, which is nice. And this kind of information isn't always available. And what any landscape architect or good designer does is analyze a space based on its pluses and its minuses, and then through the design, we try to address the minuses or the constraints, and we try to enhance the assets of the site. We happen to be there on kind of a dark, dreary day, but lots of great open space. We certainly had a building to contend with, and when you're in your gardens, it's something a designer tries to do is kind of hide urbanity and let you feel like you're in a space and away from it all. So we wanted to, beautiful building, but we certainly wanted to focus the activities as far away from the apartments as we could. So both parties win. There are several big, beautiful sugar maples. Some are dying in disease, so part of our plan for the landscape is to remove those. And what you can see on, well, I'll get to the design, but some of the specifics of the design, but we do plan to replace the shade trees and continue to encourage shade at the site. Parking was a little bit of an issue, but we did think that 4th Street offered plenty of parking, and we do hope it's a walkable destination for most people in the city. So if we have parking issues because of high use, that's going to be a good issue to have. So, but we thought we were going to be okay with parking. Access to the park, we determined part of our design too was we wanted to not only tell you about the labyrinth and the components of the Peace Garden, but also identify this space as a public park too. So we are hoping to demarcate either side of the space too. A big open flat area just outside the canopies of the trees will be our location for the labyrinth. We wanted to take advantage of the shade of the trees. We did maintain a good bit of open space for other activities, other related activities, and so that led us to the design. We're in plan view looking from above at this. The property lines are identified by a dot, dash, dash surrounding the outer space. Here you can see 4th Street and College Drive. The existing trees are identified by the thin ground black lines with the dashed centers. So just about every good tree has been located on plan, for one, because we wanted to work with them, not against them, and we wanted to develop the park so it wouldn't impact the trees. Essentially, we have a big bisecting walking path that goes from one end to the park to the other, and our goal for it meandering and being curvilinear was also to make the main circulation through the space be fun to walk on and relaxing as well. So really when you enter the space, you get a sense of serenity and peacefulness as you walk through the space. We're hoping this is kind of a 5-foot wide walking path to allow 2 people through the space. It would be ADA accessible. We're proposing to use concrete as the material, being cost effective. Part of what drove this connection is we knew we wanted to make sure we identified the park at both ends. So the nice thing is this walk goes through the entire space. The labyrinth is located, as I mentioned earlier, just adjacent to the shade trees. And we have plans for some benches and other seating, maybe at a second phase, building a small gathering space. But in general, our hopes are to build the walk, install the flowering trees, and those are these red circles that you see, ornamental or flowering trees to help soften the edges and enclose the labyrinth space, and as well create kind of a little bit more long-term some enclosure and more of an entryway feel at the front. So you could walk through a shaded component of the garden and have a nice clearing or open space, and then get back into some of the shaded components of the site or places of the site. So really great in that you have, will long-term have a multitude of sun and shade spaces in the garden. The yellow is long-term, could be perennial gardens or other native gardens, but and I think the decision to have less lawn and more perennials would be maybe dictated by maintenance and volunteerism moving forward. So as part of the phase one, we hope to do the walkway, the labyrinth, many of the ornamental trees around the space, and then several, I believe upwards of 10 additional flowering or shade trees that we would propose on site. And phase two would be, the expansion of other spaces here.
Does anybody have any questions?
So what is the labyrinth made of, and what is its form?
Thanks, Karen. One design for the labyrinth, obviously we want to create a labyrinth that's durable, that can be used by many people, but is cost effective too. So the idea here, we looked at many different construction styles and saw the idea of actually maintaining some of the turf to be the walking path, and then utilizing the bricks to actually define the walking course. So this could be built out of a number of different materials. This potentially could be a group project, so we're hoping to get people together and take on a project like this with the guidance of some professionals. We also like the idea that it's still potentially mowable as well. So the bricks are installed at grade, and this is a surface that can still kind of, the old adage, mow and go right across the space. We certainly kept the parks department and maintenance crews in mind, and my background tells me we need to for a successful project. So making soft edges and easy mowing spaces is a consideration of the design. The fun about labyrinths are, there is a following, there is growing interest in labyrinths. They're gardens that you basically follow the walking course, and the idea here is you forget things and you come in and try to clear your mind. Walking the course helps you clear your mind, so it's meditative, it's meant to relax your direct attention, and you leave that space feeling restored. Yeah, there is, both at the residential and public scale, there is interest now, because we lead these pretty hectic lives. There is a push, to have more of these in our own home spaces and public spaces. So we have a couple of folks in here that have one or two as well.
Can I add to that?
Please.
One of the things that we considered was, it's a community project, so how to draw in all generations, and its location, and we looked at location in the community, and having access to schools, and having it be a project for ecology, for mindfulness, for care of this community, as an access point for students. And we're interested in including teachers and the school system in writing grants, learning opportunities. So it's multifaceted.
One of our members of our team, the core team, Heidi Carmen, former superintendent, she couldn't be here today. She's at a HASTA convention in Brookfield. So that tells you how much she loves plants and nature and outdoors. But she said she will be instrumental in helping getting the high school design team on board and just helping facilitate the community aspect of bringing the schools, the intermediate, the primary, the middle, the high school, into helping out either in the construction of this or helping out as, we're also talking about having a labyrinth keeper group and involving the schools and having different classrooms take on helping out and assisting with that. So there's a lot of possibility in this, and she is taking that on, so that's really wonderful.
John?
Yes.
Do you, is that the name of the park, the Seminary Park Peace Garden? And my second question is, will there be signage at each end of the walkway to invite people in? And thirdly, will the eastern entrance connect with the old sidewalk that used to be the entrance to Seminary Park?
It could be the name. I think, in some ways it's a park and there are gardens within a park, so, and that could certainly change too, but seemed appropriate and catchy. Yes, we do have plans to add park signage and some interpretive signage to help explain the idea of the labyrinth and meditation and the purpose of the garden. So that we hope to be part of phase one as well. And we think would be vital to help draw attention and use and activity of the space. So it's a great question. And there's an existing spur, a concrete spur that leaves the building and kind of ends, I think, at the property line. And what we at least tried to do was to maybe not connect to anything associated with the building, but did want to connect to the sidewalk here. And so taking advantage of, walking down the sidewalk and looking across the street and seeing the entryway to the park seems nice in terms of good wayfinding and helping people know how to enter the garden.
Is there no sidewalk on 4th Street?
There is no sidewalk there.
Not on the east side.
Right. It seemed like a logical place to come in. We did make phase two for, potentially walking through the space, cutting through the space and making a walkway for people that are coming north on 4th Street. A lot of backyards, all of the homes, most of those are backyards, and we think that's favorable as well. So obviously we want to let people use the park and not impact residents and try to limit that. So that's another great benefit of this site is this park space faces a lot of folks' backyards and not front yards. And a nice, we have a nice alley or row of trees that are already there that certainly screen the space and will help keep noise down too.
Is there any discussion about using the southern, east and southern part? I thought when we looked at the original design, that L shape in there,
Yeah.
the downward leg, is there something prohibiting further development of that downward leg? Or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it didn't need that space for one. I mean, I think we the park fills the northern half better. There are more shade trees there, more visible. So there were a number of criteria reasons why we just chose to use the northern half. But our original intentions, this plan certainly, or at least the idea, grew a little bit from our initial vision, and I'd always thought that, we've got to match, if it gets too big, the budget grows with the size of the park too. So we're roughly at a $50,000 outlay for phase one, and it's a pretty big space already. So the idea to not take on more space, really drove that decision.
Chris, what are your thoughts?
I love big parks. I mean, I was just thinking I like the walkway through there. And it's just having more of an area, more place to wander, meander, just kind of stroll.
But you can't stay overnight.
Well, we could put a little motel down there, But, you've got the space there. It isn't it's part of the park within the concept of it's there and it kind of fits and we don't have to do anything with it. That's one. The other thing I was thinking of was, I was looking at your flowering trees that you've got in there, and something that made this a little different is, what are you planning on putting in?
Hopefully native and hardy, serviceberry, witch hazel. Actually, I was thinking of mainly vase-shaped. They would go in at probably 8 feet tall. Flowering trees tend to get to be about 15 feet tall.
Mhm.
And then vase, like I said, vase in shape, so smaller at the base and bigger as they get up, as they get taller. I was actually thinking a little bit about that today, that witch hazels are a little bit cheaper than service berries, and they have great medicinal properties, so maybe, having plants that are used for healing and treating other things might be useful. But redbud, serviceberry, hawthorn, or witch hazel is in the arena of flowering trees. Shade trees, oak, maple, appropriate, hardwood, long-lived trees.
It'd be nice to have a variety of trees out there. You mentioned having the kids involved in the project, that they could actually go out and look at different varieties of trees, or a science project in 4th grade or something. It'd be a nice mix of varieties.
Nothing restricting us from doing that.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Well, actually, one thing is, and that is money. And, should we share the big news?
Sure.
Does everybody have something to drink? I don't. Do you?
Could you put on the light?
Thank you. As you may know, we had to go through a lot of approval with the city to get this accepted. We first had to go before the Parks and Rec Board, and they gave us their blessing. And then we had to go through the Historic Preservation Commission, and they gave us their blessing. And then the bigger hurdle happened, and they had to apply, and that was John Decker, applied with our site plans and all of our work to the Wisconsin Historical Pres Society. And we just got notice last week that we have been approved. So here's to the approval. Raise those glasses. You have something? Okay. So now, we are good to go. I mean, we could go out there and break ground today. I mean, to me, that's chilling. That's so exciting. It will happen. The timeline, though, is when will it happen? I think you heard John say that phase 1 will cost $50,000. I'll total what is the phase 1 and phase 2, what's the total amount that we have?
It's higher.
It's higher. We won't go into phase 2 yet.
Not much higher.
Not much higher. It's, phase 1 will accomplish 70% of all of this. It will accomplish putting in the walkway. It will accomplish putting in the labyrinth. It will accomplish putting in signage at both ends. Okay. It won't accomplish the trees at this point. Am I correct on all
Some
that?
level of trees.
A
but-
some level of
yep,
trees.
Yep, probably 20.
I look to him for all of that because I have no knowledge. But it takes money. We have gotten some donations already, thank you, Tris, and Georgia. But we do need more. And not just money, we're also writing for grants. We are starting our fundraising campaign. So what we're interested in is what you would like to give, not just monetarily, but what interest you have in the Peace Garden. I heard some thoughts of, maybe it could be Seminary Park Peace Garden. The name is, the name at this point can be anything as wants, as long as we have that Peace Garden at the end of it, because that's what it is. It's the labyrinth, and it's a space for people to contemplate and think and do less of the physical and more of the mindful. So what I would like for us to do, and I'm going to pass it around, I have a little sign-up sheet. It says, I'm interested in assisting the Friends of the Evansville Peace Garden to make this a reality. So your name, please print, your phone number, your email, and then I put down, what are you interested in? Grant writing, fundraising, donation, installation, maintenance. What are your thoughts? If you'd like to sign it, great. Would you start passing that around?
Do you want me to sign it?
And no, you would just pass. And let us know what your interest level is, because we do need our people, we do need our friends to make this a reality. And it's not just my vision anymore. And as many of you already know, I'm going to be leaving in 28 days and counting. Got to take a deep breath after that. And the vision will continue. We have a great crew, and I'm pretty excited about that. So, here's to the crew. So, thank you for coming. We'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Come on up, take a look at the site plan. John's here to answer the more technical questions. We can help with, and we can answer as much as we can at this point. So, thank you for